All right. Thanks so much for engaging with the Meramec Greenway Open House Project. We're excited you all are here to participate. So with that, this is what we're going to kind of talk through in this presentation. We'll talk through the project team, who GRG is, and the Meramec Greenway, what kind of analysis has gone into this project so far, and then what this current feasibility study process looks like. And then we'll have Brian from GRG talk through the partnerships and long-term maintenance. And this will provide the context you need to provide your feedback on this potential project. So the project team, there's myself, Dan, Eileen, and Mike from PGAV that are working on this. We're the design team on this planning project. And then we have Eric and Mike from Rights and Gens and the folks at Discovery Works Collaborative that are handling the engagement components of this project. And then I'm going to hand it to Brian.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Great Rivers Greenway, we are your regional park system. We are a special parks district. Technically, we're a political subdivision of the state of Missouri, but we represent three entities: St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles County. We were established in the year 2000 by a vote of the people in those entities, and we are supported by a sales tax that provides greenways and other park improvements around the metro area. To date, we have over 140 miles of greenways and more projects in the works. And we, in order to accomplish this, we have over 265 partners in the area, and these represent state agencies, local municipalities, volunteer groups, other organizations and agencies that help us do what we can to provide greenways across the St. Louis metro area. Okay. The Meramec Greenway represents planned over 50 miles worth of greenway from the confluence of the Meramec at the Mississippi out to Pacific, Missouri. Currently, we have over 20 miles of existing greenway, and tonight we're here to talk about the potential bridge project connecting Unger Park to Green Tree Park. There we go. As we talk through the potential of the Meramec Greenway and all of the work that we're doing, the focus tonight is about this potential connection between Kirkwood and Fenton, between Unger Park and Green Tree Park. And we are hoping to gain more input from the public about your thoughts on the project, the vision, the connection of regional trails, connecting to communities and connecting to parks. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the analysis that has been done prior to this feasibility study project. So the Meramec Greenway has actually been in the works since 2002 when the GRG Board of Directors approved the concept plan for the overall Greenway. So since then, there's been continued development of the Greenway. As Brian mentioned, GRG has purchased property along the Greenway. Some of it has been developed, others is in planning or design. And then sort of fast forward to 2022, when the Unger Park realignment project started. So that project was really geared towards improving some flooding concerns at St. Louis County's Unger Park on the south side of the Meramec River. But through that project, a report was completed that kind of looked at the feasibility of a potential bridge between the two parks. So there was an open house held. We heard some information from the public around kind of interest in this bridge, which got us to today. So in 2025 is when we began this project, thinking about how to connect Unger Park and Green Tree Park. So working with the leaders in the city of Kirkwood and city of Fenton, along with St. Louis County, to just think about what that connection could look like and sort of some of those factors around feasibility. This is the Unger Park realignment project. So this project is in the works. The construction will start later this year and finish in early 2027. You can see here that the trail, it has moved from the river side of Unger Lake to inside of the park to alleviate some of those flooding concerns. Some other improvements are happening at this park as well, which just represents some investment on the south side of the Meramec River. On the north side where Kirkwood's Green Tree Park is, they've got their own master plan going now for thinking about improvements and some sort of reorganizing some things in Green Tree as well. And as part of the Unger Park realignment project, several public engagement methods were conducted. So you can see some results here from a survey where Green Tree Park came up as an interest to create that connection. Also heard at the open houses around an interest in creating a bridge or some sort of connectivity to get folks that live on the south side connected to the north side and the other way around. So that's really the engagement that led us to today and to starting this feasibility study that Eileen's going to talk you through.
Yes, hi. So currently we are engaged in a feasibility study. So what is a feasibility study? It's really a comprehensive assessment of a project to determine if a project is feasible, if it's practical, viable, and if it has the potential for success based on a number of factors, whether those are technical, financial, environmental, etc. It essentially answers questions about if a project can be constructed within physical and budgetary constraints while meeting specific project goals. So this particular feasibility study is investigating the feasibility of a walking and biking trail over the Meramec River, linking Unger Park and Green Tree Park. We are working to identify not only the appropriate location for the connection, connectivity between the two communities and along the Meramec Greenway, but also impacts to flooding, existing trees, the two parks, greenway usage, aesthetics, and surrounding land uses. There are a lot of components to the feasibility study process. We've reviewed earlier studies and existing information. We're researching the site, and we're continuing to develop a variety of options for the alignment. One of the key parts of this process involves gathering input from the community. That's why we're here. We want to hear from you. So as we dive deeper into the research and site analysis, we are continuing to investigate a variety of impacts. In particular, we are continuing to focus on potential impacts to the flow of the river, erosion and sedimentation, and potential mitigation strategies like a flood conveyance bench. We are reaching out to the Army Corps of Engineers, floodplain regulators, and others to understand all of the requirements related to permitting and floodplain regulations. And we continue to be mindful of potential impacts to the viewshed, trees and vegetation on both sides of the river, existing assets in both parks, and of course, associated costs.
I think as we talk about partnerships, and I mentioned that earlier in the presentation, we have a number of partners that we have been engaging with in this process. Included in that are at the core the cities of Kirkwood and Fenton, and also the St. Louis County Department of Parks and Recreation. We also have been working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the National Park Service. You might think to yourself, National Park Service, where does that come into play here? Well, Unger Park was created using the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is a federal grant that is administered through the National Park Service to states and territories for outdoor recreational purposes. And with that comes an encumbrance on the land in perpetuity for outdoor recreational purposes. So any new projects that are taking place sometimes are reviewed to ensure that they're compatible with those outdoor recreation uses outlined within the grant program. Also, we're working with Burlington Junction Railway. There's near the end of Cassins Drive, getting construction access, Missouri Department of Transportation within their right-of-way, nearby residences and business owners and property owners. And then we're also reaching out to other groups that are advocates of the Meramec River, such as the Meramec River Recreation Association, the Open Space Council, neighbors like Scott Gallagher Soccer Park, and the St. Louis Disc Golf Club that takes work in Unger Park. And then, of course, working with our existing Greenway users. And a question that we have for you tonight is, are there others that we should be reaching out to discuss and gather their input in this project? One of the questions that often comes up is related to long-term maintenance of greenways and structures. And we work with those municipal partners and county partners to develop long-term operation and maintenance agreements. We do this early in the process, usually between 30 and 60% design, so that Everyone has an idea of what is going to be built at that point and who's going to maintain it. Our model, and this is the model, is the Great Rivers Greenway would build the Greenway and we would have a partner maintain it. However, not all partners are built the same and not all have the same financial abilities. So that becomes a negotiating standpoint as we work with our partners on a project by project to determine how those maintenance needs and those long-term maintenance needs will be addressed.
So that's where we need your feedback. We want to hear from you. We've got some questions, some ways you can participate and provide your feedback, but we really want to think about what excites you about the project, what's important about this potential connection, who else should we be talking to? When we think about the big vision for the Meramec Greenway, connecting on either side of the river in some way is going to be important. So when we think about the feasibility study component of this planning stage, we just really want to know what's important to you about it and how your feedback could inform the design process. So thank you very much.